Joe, I think I've said this on here, but I believe this wholeheartedly. Teams can only get up for so many games, meaning I think that you have 5 or 6 games a year where you can get up and play to your best ability. And I thought, and like everybody else thought, when Jay Norvell came out and said what he said about Deion and the glasses and all that, we thought that this would give this team an edge. Here's the
opposite.
They came out playing like shit. Colorado came out playing like shit. But here's the thing, too. Teams like Deion, when you take over a program, sometimes that you face an opponent that is not better than you. Joe, Colorado State is not better than Colorado. They don't have the athletes. They don't have the coaching. And sometimes you're going to find yourself in a dogfight. And I walk away from Colorado State and say to myself, you know what, man, that took a lot of resiliency. That took a lot of focus down the stretch from their quarterback and their coaching staff. Joe, they could have folded it in. I thought in the second half, I was like, man, I don't know if they're going to be able to score without Travis. And then here came Shedeur Sanders. They tied it up. They got the 2-point conversion, which, my God, what a fantastic 2-point conversion play call by Sean Lewis. And then they get in the overtime and they win it. He looked good. Sometimes you just got to be able to win games that you're in, and you're in against an inferior opponent, and you do it. Joe, this team's 3-0, and last year they were 1-11. And Deion, for all the hype and fame that he gets, which somewhat is warranted, I mean, they're a really well-coached team. I think that they battled. That place was sold out. And you know what, man? I'm going to tell you this. I'm the opposite. I know people didn't like those fans rushing the field. Well, you're a 23-point favorite. Well, you know what? There has been a crap load of bad football in Colorado and Boulder. I'm okay with it. You know, I don't walk out of this game feeling any less bad about Colorado because I think that it showed a lot of heart and resiliency to come out with that win.
It's also a rivalry game. Like, that's one thing that I think was kind of forgotten about here is that, one, you know, for them to react that way after the game, yes, to rush the field, it makes sense. But on the other side of this, to assume that Colorado State was just going to show up and take the beating, I think that was completely misconstrued. I'm on the same page as you. I think that is just an amazing fight for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, to get his team to fight back like that. Shedeur Sanders, like, that is an amazing performance to put the team on his back. But it was forgotten by many.
Hold on, pause. What happened? Okay, never mind. When people start saying that, I'm like, oh my God, did somebody die?
They scored on a Hail Mary. That's pretty nuts. It was forgotten.
We're talking about Colorado.
That's hilarious. It was forgotten coming into this game that Torrey Horton is a really good NFL draft prospect.
Right.
Mo Camara is a really good edge rusher, NFL draft prospect. And honestly, that coaching staff is actually pretty good. Like, I know that Chad Savage, their wide receiver coach, like, I have a little bit of a bias because he's come on my show a couple times. But that coaching staff's not bad. Like, I just think everyone assumed that, oh, Colorado State, what have they done? That Colorado State team did not want to get pushed around. My main takeaway from this, and it doesn't really change from what I saw the first 2 weeks. I watched the all-22 of the Nebraska game, and I immediately knew that this wasn't going to last. Like, they weren't going to be good enough to get past the top 4 teams in the Pac-12. They were good enough to get to 7, maybe 8 wins. But once it came time to play Oregon this upcoming week, their roster deficiencies were going to catch up to them. It is too hard. It is too hard to have the roster turnover to bring in enough offensive and defensive linemen to be competing at the top of your conference. It is just not possible. And they brought in a lot of really good athletes. They just didn't bring in those bodies on the O-line and D-line. They got torn up by Colorado State. And I tell you what, right now, you think that Dan Lanning's not going to send the house after that offense? He's going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And that Kamara kid from Colorado State, I know that he had the bad late hit on Shedeur Sanders and he fell on him the way that he did. But I don't think that there was a lot of intent there, right? Like, I don't think that
Yeah, they're going to call that though, because
I know, but this is why I hate that the penalty. Like, so Joe, think about this. He's got to sit out the entire second half of next week's game. Like, flag him, let him sit out the rest of the game. But I do think it's. But he had a fantastic day. And
from New Jersey. He's from Newark, New Jersey.
How about that? You know what else too? Colorado played a true freshman center, and the kid's not ready. And he wasn't ready, but he grew up. In that second half, he grew up.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders, for me though, I tell you what, the kid, for what it's worth, Shedeur Sanders, man, I was saying this. I was in the Twitter Spaces last night when I was watching the game, and I did not realize he had as big of an arm as he had. Like, he was making throws on frozen ropes, off platform, getting to his fourth and fifth progression, throwing the ball down the field, hitting his checkdowns. He was under pressure all night long, and great quarterbacks find ways to win. I agree with you, though, that this Oregon game could get lopsided because talent and depth. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to doubt DeLeone in Colorado, though. I'm not going to do it. I mean, let me ask you this.
Yeah, why? Okay, go ahead.
Well, because I saw Colorado Oregon go down to Texas Tech and really get their asses handed to them. And another thing too, I mean, is Texas Tech a better football team than Colorado?
Their offensive and defensive lines are better than Colorado's. Yes, they are. That's why that game was close.
Texas Tech's too.
Wait, say it again.
Oregon, a lot of people are making a lot about Oregon right now. But the good team that they played, I mean, Texas Tech was kicking that ass in the second half. I don't think that this game is as lopsided as people are making it out to be either now.
It could be close. Look, I really see a path for it to be, and it's exactly what you just said, and I said at the beginning of the show. It's all going to be contingent on, like, can Shedeur Sanders outplay all of the complications and all the issues that are going to show up in this game, which is a lot of pressure being thrown at him. His offensive line struggling to deal with a really good front seven. You know, does he have enough time? And also, like, if they miss on some drives, I'm not worried about Bo Nix and that offense not scoring. Like, this isn't TCU. Oregon is heads above TCU. I know that they struggled against Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. They came up.
Wait. South Carolina and Georgia, the outcome of that game, we're not worried about Georgia, right?
No, because you know why? Can I tell you why? Georgia's proven it. So Georgia's had games in the past under Kirby where, okay, they start off slow, and then they come out in the second half, they start kicking everybody's ass, and they win the football game. They go on and win national titles.
All right.
Dan Lanning does not get that same leniency, okay, if you will, because Joe, I mean, he goes down to Texas Tech and gets pushed around after a team just lost to Wyoming. So what I'm trying to say here is, do I think Oregon's the better overall team? No doubt. No doubt. They have the better athletes on the line of scrimmage. I agree with you. And look, this game can get ugly. But at some point, Oregon's got to make a statement. You know, I remember last year when Oregon State beats Oregon, when Oregon has no business losing that game. At some point, they had no business losing that game. They had 2 late turnovers in that game. Bo Nix looked like absolute asshole. He couldn't convert on third down. You go to Texas Tech to make a statement, and then that game's a 1-score game. Like, don't act like Colorado can't sling the ball on them. You want to talk about it?
They can, and I'm not saying that they can't. So I'm agreeing with you that it could be close. There's a path for it, but there's a more likely path that Oregon comes out swinging. Like, I really think that they saw Texas Tech and they looked past them. That's what I think that happened. You don't think that they're not going to be pissed off about? How many times are you going to look
past teams before we say maybe you're not that good?
But you don't think that they're not going to show up and be pissed off about all of this free attention that Colorado's getting and nobody's talking about them? I mean, Dan Lanning, even at the beginning of the season, was when they moved to the Big 12 and he was getting asked about it at a press conference.
Dan Lanning needs to worry about not losing to teams he has no business losing to. Dan Lanning needs to worry about himself. See, and here's the thing about DeLeone. everybody, Deion gets all the spotlight, right? Everybody starts talking about Deion, whatever. Deion's not calling these people out. He's not calling out other coaches.
Yes. I just think though, for this game, separate from that point, I just think that this is going to be like a very quick, easy statement ranked win for Oregon. They need to win that game. Like they need to win this game to question the people like you that are saying that, well, they looked bad against Texas Tech.